We'll respond to that. Let's speak to Conservative peer and the former Home Office Minister in charge of immigration, Lord Kirkhope of Harrogate. Good to speak to you, Timothy. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell me what you make of the new Conservatives' 12-point plan. What do you think of it?
And not very much, really. As far as I'm concerned, these so-called new Conservatives, I'm afraid, are rather old in their attitudes towards migration. I don't quite know what their whole sort of raison d'etre is, actually, because, frankly, what we should be doing at the moment is supporting the Prime Minister, who is trying to deal with what is undoubtedly an enormously difficult problem with immigration. I was the immigration minister some years ago, and it does seem to me that what we have to have is a sensible plan in place, but we do not have to turn ourselves into a sort of a rhetoric-filled party. And to call yourself something like New Conservatives, as if everybody else is completely out of line, is unacceptable. And I suppose, in a way, my reaction to that on Twitter today has been to suggest that maybe it's time that I set up something called the Old Conservatives, in which we go back to the basic principles and values which the Conservative Party used to have before these radical views were pursued.
Jonathan Gullis earlier was insistent that they back Rishi Sunak. They're on Rishi Sunak's side. But that feels hard to get your head round, doesn't it?
Well, why don't they just back him? I mean, they say they're going to back him, and then they're suggesting a new policy. Why don't they just fall in line with the policy he's pursuing? It's difficult enough. I mean, I'm one of those people that's causing quite a few problems in the Lords over the migrants bill, because I don't actually like some of the things. But I do agree with the Prime Minister that we have to find a way to stop people getting into boats and coming across the Channel. We have to find new legal and proper ways in which people can claim asylum to come to this country. But we're not going to do it by removing all possibilities of having people coming here to look after people in our care homes, to actually do the sort of work that has to be done, and usually has to be done by people who come to this country. According to these new Conservatives, we're going to abolish the possibilities of people coming and helping in our care homes. And that would be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, there are 165,000 vacancies in the social care sector. I can see that you're irked by this group of MPs. What can Rishi Sunak do? What kind of sanction can he give them so that he stops being contested by these, small radical groups within his party? And I use radical softly, really people who feel that they've got a better plan. What can Rishi Sunak do to really stamp down his authority, to really let them know that this behaviour isn't acceptable? Surely their time is better spent on their constituents or on perhaps more useful areas.
I fully agree. No, I fully agree. I was a whip for 5 years under Margaret Thatcher and John Major, and I'm afraid I'm not going to use the words here at this time because there are still young people up and not in bed. So I won't say what I really think of these people. But as for giving new policies and pretending to be supportive of the Prime Minister, this is a load of bunkum. As far as I'm concerned, they should be dealt with in the most severe manner.
How can they be dealt with?
Well, I think that they should be considered in relation to the whip, in relation to their future political careers, in the way which we used to do it when people behaved in manner which I think is similar to this. I don't think you can tolerate it.
Yeah,
the party will not win an election if we are divided.
So you'd like to see them threatened with losing the whip, or you'd like them to lose the whip as a very firm message? Because it's not just the New Conservatives. There are several other different organisations as well doing similar things in terms of perhaps disrupting Sunak's authority.
Yes, I'm getting a bit sick of all these different organisations that are being set up calling themselves Conservative parties. There's this New Conservatives. There's a thing called the Conservative Democratic Organisation, and democracy doesn't seem to fit with it very well. There's publications like the Conservative Post. All kinds of things like this are turning up now, are being funded by certain individuals with loads of money, but not much political sense. And it seems to me that what we are seeing is a factional thing, which is bad for the party. And if we want to win the election next year, we've got to do it from a unified position and not from a position where everybody's doing their own thing. The
So they
Prime
should be
Minister is
threatened with
putting out
losing
a
the whip,
message.
or they should lose the whip. How draconian should Rishi Sunak be on this issue? Nip it in the bud.
I think he should tell them to shut up and get on with supporting him as the Prime Minister. And I think that would be a good start. And if they don't do that, then I'm afraid they'd have to face the consequences, as far as I'm concerned, of losing the whip.
Lee Anderson, Danny Kruger, Jonathan Gullis, Miriam Cates, they will all argue that they are speaking on behalf of their constituents, the red wall Conservative MPs, as they are described. They will argue that they are speaking on behalf of their constituents.
Look, many things happened when I was a Member of Parliament, which my constituents particularly wanted, but they were not in line with the Conservative government's policy at the time. I would argue privately for those things and indeed even make comments in the House of Commons about them. What I would not do is to set up a complete group which clearly has as its reasons for existence attacks on the present policy of the government. If they want to attack the government, they should go elsewhere and do it from another base, but not within the Conservative Party. That's what I object to very strongly.
OK, well, look, really good to speak to you. Thank you for putting your point across so clearly. Lord Kirkhope, Conservative peer and former Immigration Minister, thank you. Good to speak to you. Coming up, we'll check in.